it is expected that when they go to the correction center, they should come back as reformed people. But there have been evidences that in some cases they go, serve the jail terms, and then come back into society. And there are even indications, investigations are beginning to point out that some of these people were among those that broke out of jail in the November 27 coup d'etat.
So I ask these so we get clarity on what our situation really is. Because if we had reports of armed robbery in the past and they were investigated, people were arrested, tried, found guilty and jailed, you would wonder, how then are we still having armed robbery? Could it be that it's becoming lucrative, so we're having more and more people venturing to become armed robbers, or are they the same armed robbers recycling into the society? We really need to understand this.
So it's a combination of various factors. Sometimes you catch up with some people when they are involved in a particular crime. Sometimes they may go out of the radar, and it is near impossibility to arrest and capture all of the criminals at the same time and put them all in jail, and then you did a crime. I mean, all over the world, you will have criminalities. You will have people that are just engaged in these kinds of activities. So, whilst you might have arrested some, the ones that are remaining will continue to do their activities. And so, you will not have a situation where you have a clean slate, that there are no armed robbers in our society. That will not be even wise to think of. So yes, there could be new ones that might have been recruited into the deal. There could be the old ones that have not been caught up with the law. There could be others that have gone to jail, served their jail sentences, and then come back to society and begin to do the same. We call them recidivists. They go back onto the same crime. They revise their activities. They were criminals, caught up with the law, sent to jail, spend their jail terms, and then come back to society. It is expected that they should come as reformed people. I am aware that the Sierra Leone Correctional Services is making frantic efforts to ensure that they put them in a way that will make them become productive members of society. But that will be an individual decision. That will be an individual choice. If you are given the requisite training, the requisite teachings to come back to society and become productive, and you decide to do otherwise, then that is a different ballgame altogether. But I continue to appeal that we will be able to succeed in eliminating these kinds of people or isolating them by providing the requisite information. Like I stated, these boys who committed the heinous offenses in Bo and in Kenema might not even be residents of Bo. They came from somewhere, but before they got onto Bo or to Kenema, somebody on ground might have coordinated their activities.
This speaks volumes of the quantity, the caliber of security presence we have. That's a good point you raised. If you, in fact, from even within Freetown, when it's dark, you see checkpoints every distance you get to. There are checkpoints. Even moving from Freetown to upcountry, there are checkpoints you would have to cross. And these crimes occur not in daytime, what we've seen. It happens during the night. It speaks volumes of what's the quality of checks that are provided at these security checkpoints that people pass through with all these weapons in their custody.
So that will mean is the thinking that prior to their commission of the offense, they moved with all of these things at one go. Sometimes it's not like that. Criminals are criminals. They are sometimes very, very crafty in the way they do their things. ASCP just mentioned that some of the implements caught up with them are locally made implements, especially the shotguns. They could be manufactured in the very community where they are committing these offenses. Or they could travel with them in piecemeal in different parts. in a way that it will almost be impossible, even with the most sophisticated machinery, to determine that one. And so they go to communities aided by other rogue elements who are stationed in those communities, and then they perpetrate their activities. The checkpoints are meant to ensure that those people who want to travel safely are aided to do so without any problems whatsoever. It is not actually meant to begin to put people under fear, to begin to put people under kinds of tensions.
We'll look at community policing and the role of the community in solving some of these crimes. But let's talk about the checkpoints. I'll come to you again, ACP Brima. What is the purpose of those checkpoints? What are they supposed to be doing, those who mount the checkpoints?
Yeah, from the name itself implies that they are there to check for, well, one, contraband goods, the movement of people. Sometimes we have people who move from point A to point B, and if they are suspicious, you pick them up. If they are moving with goods, they are not supposed to move it, you pick them up as well. So that's the purpose.
How do you know all of these things?
Well, it depends on the training you have. If training is provided for, say for example, to detect drugs, and then we detect them like we have been doing, especially for, we have the Falas checkpoint and other checkpoints where we've been.
So how do they detect them at these checkpoints? Because, you know, at these checkpoints, yeah, there are no security dogs, you know, like you would have at the airports, those trained dogs who can perceive drugs from afar and sniff it up and just pick it out. They don't have those. We don't see them with any scanning devices, yeah, to check. So my assumption is they would use their human eyes, search the vehicles, search the luggage in the vehicles, but unfortunately what obtains is we see these checkpoints, yeah, to perhaps, as you said, as the name obtains, checkpoints to check. Maybe we need to change the names from checkpoints to cash collection points, because what they do is they stop vehicles, whether private or commercial, and it's just we they want lights for the one battery for the lights, or one drink tea or play school. That's what these checkpoints are doing now. That's the reality.
No,
they make it into a money collection point rather than a checkpoint.
It could not be exclusive for that purpose. Otherwise, we would not have been arresting people.
So this is the theory versus the practical. So you're speaking on the theory on how it's up to me.
What I'm saying,
I'm telling you the reality of what obtains.
Yes, you are telling me the reality of what you've seen. That could be true. I'm not contesting that one. This is why we always say, if you are out there as a member of the public, you see things which are not right, bring them to our attention, bring them to our notice. I'm in the office, I'm asking Tom.
Isn't the police aware of these, that there are some police personnel, many of them sadly so, at those checkpoints, they just do face check and greetings and expect a cash transaction?
Those ones we lay hands on, we normally treat them the way we should treat them. Take them through the processes of CDID, if they should be dismissed. And most times when we dismiss them, we let the public know. And some we've sent to Pademba Gold, we've also let the public know. So those ones who cross the line, we've been doing the needful. But the checkpoints are not there for that specific purpose. There are checkpoints where they collect money. And sometimes people think they are police checkpoints. Like we have NRE checkpoints in some areas where they check whether you've gone through the NRE processes. And then we also have checkpoint for this agricultural stuff. You know, so these are all checkpoints. Sometimes people just think all the checkpoints are police checkpoints. Not all the checkpoints are police checkpoints, but
are police officers supposed to wear uniforms at the checkpoints, whether it's daytime or nighttime?
They are supposed to wear uniform, but some do not wear uniform.
Are they supposed to do that, not wearing uniform?
Yes, some are not attached to uniform offices, so they do not wear uniform.
So because again, these are security concerns. Yeah. Some of these checkpoints, as you've pointed, are not mounted by police officers. Though some of the examples you've mentioned are state institutions, but in some instances, there are people who drive and they tell you, especially at night, they're not even confident to stop because they can't tell which is a police checkpoint and which isn't. Is it right for an individual to stand on the streets mounting a checkpoint without a police uniform and expecting drivers to brake and honor the respect, give upon them the respect due to a police officer when they're not in uniform?
It all depends. Say, for example, we have these Okada guys. They have their own system. They have their way of operations. And what we normally do, we just allow them to operate. And but they operate for their own Okadas.
The Sierra Leone police, the police personnel deployed. I'm asking you this because not too long ago, I witnessed a situation where at the Bo checkpoint, the main Bo checkpoint, there was a policeman. He says he's a policeman. He was wearing uniform. He wasn't wearing uniform. He was in clothes. He was stopping people. Some of the drivers refused to stop. And then he stopped another vehicle and we were there, and I said, how can we stop when you're not even wearing uniform? How would we know we were stopped by an officer of the law and not because, you know, for many different personalities in the country, people just stop you. All man they send shout out, Odi Mami Odi Pa. How do you know this is an officer who wants to do his work when the officer is not wearing uniform?
Well, in future, if that one happens, all I can advise you, you can ask for his ID card.
But then you would need to stop.
Yeah, you have to
see ID card.
But
how do you make the decision now to say, okay, that's an officer, let me respect the officer and stop when the person is not wearing uniform?
But you specifically refer to a checkpoint, and that checkpoint you already know is a police checkpoint.
But so the checkpoint is not always full of police people. You know, at these checkpoints, especially up country, there are people selling items, there are people who are coming just to give you shout outs, and there are many different people at the checkpoints.
Yeah, but that particular checkpoint you are referring to is a police checkpoint. So if somebody comes over to you to say stop, and then the person is not in uniform, ask for his ID card, his identity card. So it's okay for the police people not to be wearing uniforms at the checkpoint? It is okay for them not to wear a uniform if they are not posted to a branch where they should wear a uniform. So if they're not posted to a branch where they should wear a uniform, why are they working in that branch on the street? They are there for some specific purposes. These are not things we cannot lay bare on the table, but they are there for specific purposes. But they are police officers. They are not supposed to put on a uniform. Okay. We have the FSU, sometimes we have the CID, we have the intelligence branch. They are all there. Now traffic people, should they be on traffic? Ooh. You're saying sometimes they're posted for different things. FSU, are they now traffic people? No, do you come from other divisions? No, being at the checkpoint doesn't necessarily mean you are performing traffic duties like you are controlling traffic. So any officer can be at the checkpoint? But you can be there. You can be there for a specific purpose. And for example, we've got information that somebody's been trafficked. So you can get the FSU man to be there who knows about trafficking. You can get him at that time to be there to perform a police duty. Okay. It might not be in uniform, but he's performing a police duty. That has been clarified on they can wear uniform and all. Let's come back to the quality of search that is conducted at the checkpoints. Will this actually leave the checkpoints and the people who rely on the service that the checkpoints provide, the security service, it leaves people vulnerable? Because especially in the aspect of Kush, we know that maybe for lack of the right way to put it, the drug lords, when it comes to Kush in Sierra Leone, are not poor people. Many of them have expensive cars, and these are exactly the kinds of people who come to the checkpoints and they don't go through a search. What the officers do is just to send greetings to them, and there is a cash transaction going on. They don't care to check what's in the vehicle, even in the wake of the Kush pandemic in the country. They don't even care to say, let's check. When you pass these checkpoints, you see the people come, they say hello to them, they ask them nicely, some very directly about money, they give them money, and they go without even searching. This makes the security aspect of the checkpoints useless.
If you go back to the records of arrests that have been made in those checkpoints, you will agree with me that the presence of those checkpoints is one that should be commended. Yes, there could be situations where some people will just want to beat the system, beat the law. Sometimes it becomes even challenging for those police officers or law enforcement agencies that will insist on checking on every vehicle. The same public will come again to say, you are delaying us, you are doing this and that kind of a thing. I stated earlier that we thrive best where we have information and intelligence. some of the arrests that are being made are not actually on account of what obtains at the checkpoint. You come to the checkpoint to already have information on you, and we go after you on account of this. Again, let me also use this opportunity to appeal to members of the public, irrespective of your status. If you come to a checkpoint and police officers want to search, allow them to do their job. Don't ostracize them. Don't begin to say they are wasting your time and that kind of a thing. Because it is these kinds of attitudes that will sometimes lead to the escape of the actual people that we are looking for. Most often, if we begin now to pinpoint on checking on every vehicle at a particular point, it will mean that we've gotten some information, some intelligence. So we expect the public to understand that kind of a situation. It's a challenging thing, we must concede, but over the period, the number of arrests that we've made in all of the checkpoints, whether at the airport, whether at the seaport, or even the land borders, from Galamwea to Kenema to Bo, to even the airport, all of those are as a result of the commitment of the personnel that are deployed there. There could be challenges, and these challenges are not insular to Sierra Leone, because the rogue element will do everything within his powers or her powers to beat the system. I mean, they sometimes are influential. They have money. They know the people. They know the structures. And all they will do is to beat the structures. So we expect that information that will lead us to better what we are doing in all of those checkpoints will be provided, because this will be, management information for those people that will be reviewing the structures, that will be reviewing the functions, to bring this to their attention. Because even when checkpoints are created, sometimes checkpoints are gazetted, others could be snap checkpoints to deal with particular situations and that kind of a thing. It is expected that the public has to cooperate to those kinds of activities. ACP mentioned that there could be different category of security personnel at the checkpoints. But at every given point, if it's a gazetted checkpoint, you will expect to have at least a uniformed police officer that will aid the others, especially for the public. Sometimes the public will be suspicious that you are in Mufti. I don't know you, I'm not too comfortable because I don't know whether you are a police officer or not. And for Fala checkpoints, it's a big checkpoint, it's a gazetted checkpoint. So you will expect that there has to be that kind of a blend. But these kinds of information are ones that we will need to provide when we do our reviews in terms of the functions, in terms of upgrading on our activities. That's what I wanted to say.
I'll get back